NFL draft and rookies. Hell yeah.
Podcast off the rails already.
But there is not a chance in hell Justin Fields is finishing in the top 10.
There you know what, Mikey? Shut it.
He wants
Why
it.
not?
You don't want the smoke.
He's Calvin Johnson. He's Calvin
Oh,
Johnson.
good.
Oh,
God.
my
Yes,
God.
yes, and yes.
What are we gonna do with you?
It just, it adds a little extra flavor to the podcast. I mean,
I think you're disrespecting David Njoku.
Thank God
Yeah.
for Joe Flacco. That's all I can say. I'll help the owners. Don't draft Kadarius Toney.
I have to give the people what they want. I mean, come on. I'm going to milk it. I'm going to milk it for all it's worth.
I'll give you something to milk.
Let's rock and roll.
All right. Well, I guess week 1 is in the books. A lot of high scores, a lot of low scores, a lot of big-time performances, quite a few duds as well, especially from that tight end position. What's going on, owners? MHA podcast here to give you a recap on what took place in week 1. Myself, Eric Lansing, Todd Diamond, Mikey Renault. Gentlemen, how are you guys feeling on this Tuesday evening?
Feels good to be 1-0. That's all I got to say. 1-0.
1-0. Mikey, you're 1-0. Are you feeling the same way?
Oh, yeah. And 1-0 feels so much better when you're beating a rival. I mean, we only get to play each other once this year, and to be able to have it and know that you won't have another shot at me until next year, unless we meet in the playoffs, of course. And it's a great feeling.
Playoffs? I'm not even contemplating the playoffs at this point right now. Goodness gracious. What a terrible week for the Lemonheads. Tough to have to talk about it, but I guess we're going to have to get into it. Before I get into the news, this didn't have a huge factor. We all saw the last second Christian McCaffrey stuff, right? Mm-hmm. It was very last second. I'm not blaming Pollen for not putting someone in if you had anybody, but this is the point I want to get across. Is if you have people on Sunday night or Monday night, put them in your flex position for God's sakes. Because if there's a situation where you have them in, whether it's wide receiver, running back, the options are you going to be less. You may not have anybody on your bench to put in, but you could go pick someone up. And if you put yourself in a position where it's running back or wide receiver, but why wouldn't you put them in your flex in case something happens and you can pick up anybody? Pick up a third or a second wide receiver if they're not available. You know what I'm saying? So this is nothing against Pollen and what he did. I'm just giving owners advice that you may want to, put guys in your flex later on. Because if you know you're going to use someone at running back, put them in your running back spot. Does that make sense? You guys feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, in his defense, I would say it would change the construction of his lineup because, he has more receivers than running backs. So if he would have put him in his flex, then he would have had to maybe played a running back that he really didn't want to on Sunday. So that would have been difficult for him. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know the Pollen situation totally, but if this comes up and you have that option, because I feel like that kind of gets lost in the mix. So, but let's get into the news before we get into the recap.
I don't understand what the news is. It's just like, hey, here's a bunch of you can't fix that happened that was horrible.
All right, well, we'll start with the news that happened right before the 11 a.m. Mountain Time games. Dak Prescott got paid 4 years, $240 million. I don't know how negotiating works, but I don't think it worked very well for Jerry Jones. I feel like this is what Dak wanted. He wanted $60 million plus per year, and I think he got it. So well done, Dak Prescott.
And just wait, he's got, obviously this isn't going to be fantasy, but he's got 2026. He's got another player he's going to have to pay on that Dallas team. It's probably going to.
Can't we just enjoy the Dak Prescott stuff? You're already talking about someone else.
Sorry.
Let us enjoy when players get paid. Because Dallas has been screwing around with these guys for too long. Just pay them. You know you're going to do it. The sooner the better. Stop messing around.
You have to try and show that you have hand.
Yeah, I ain't got no hand. Dak Prescott got the right hand that's supposed to lead the team to the Super Bowl. And if you're pissing off your players like CeeDee Lamb, your best players, you're just going to, anyway. I'm not a psychiatrist or a negotiator. So we'll just keep moving here. Jordan Love, after his game on a Friday night, on the very last play, if I'm not mistaken, or second to last play, out 3 to 6 weeks with an MCL sprain. Was it Malik Willis is the backup? So that should be fun for all those own Packers. Jake Ferguson, Dallas tight end, speaking of Dallas, left the game early, and he's dealing with an MCL sprain, so he could be out multiple weeks. How about a player with another? Actually, he's dealing with a PCL sprain. Puka Nacua is going to miss at least 4 weeks. Yikes. Not good. He tried to come back in the game. Didn't work out. David Njoku, week to week with an ankle injury. Jordan Addison dealing with an ankle injury. How about Justin Fields? He's expected to start next week versus the Broncos because Russell Wilson's afraid to step on the field. I would be too. Devin MHA dealing with an ankle issue. Doesn't sound super serious, but he did not practice today. Also, one of Miami's running backs, Raheem Mostert, he didn't practice today. He's got a chest injury. And, of course, we talked about Christian McCaffrey. Was a late scratch right before the Monday night game. He's dealing with a calf/Achilles injury and is considered day-to-day. Did I miss anything else, gentlemen?
No, but I just wanted to mention, two things.
Sure.
Like Raheem Mostert, that seems normal. It seems like he never practices and then he ends up playing, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
The other thing is, are we sure David Njoku's actually hurt, or did he realize that Flacco's not throwing him the ball anymore?
Here we go.
So he's like, I don't want to play anymore.
Look, none of the tight ends came ready to play. At least these starting drafted tight ends didn't really come ready to play this week, but that is funny. I do like that. Let's get into the week one recap, and we'll start off with my POS performance, scoring the least amount of points, falling to, of course, the Hot Tamales. Tamales got off to a great start, especially on that Friday, double digits from Derrick Henry. He scored the first touchdown of the new season. Of course, he did on Thursday. And then on Friday, getting a total of 58 with Jaden Reed and Saquon Barkley, probably Saquon Barkley's best game of his flipping NFL career. The Lemonheads apparently didn't get the memo that in order to win at fantasy football, you need to draft starters and not backups. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chris Olave, Mark Andrews, they scored a whopping 8 points. Woo! While starters, backups, supposed backups, Jamison Williams, Rashid Shaheed, and Isaiah Likely combined for 55. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm hosting this podcast. I think I need to find a new career. Not that I'm getting paid for this anyway. Chad Powers fan club benefited big time on that last second Christian McCaffrey injury. It looked like Gonzo Katz, if he could at least get 11 points, he would have beaten Chad Powers fan club. But unfortunately, McCaffrey did not play. So despite 53 points from Josh Allen and 17 from their kicker, the Gonzo Cats couldn't overcome big days from A.J. Brown, Rashad White, and James Conner. Notorious CUP goes 1-0 to start the season after taking down Cooper's Cousins by a final of 130-106. Kenny Walker III ate up that Broncos defense for 103 yards and 18 points. How about kicker love? Brandon Aubrey was the offense for the Cowboys, especially in that second half, 21 points. Incredible. While Cooper's Cousins' pick of Devin Achane was a good one. He scored 19. DJ Moore could only manage 8. Well, how about Marvin Harrison Jr. finding just 1 reception all game? Yeah, buddy. Line Rip sneaked out a 2.50 point victory over the NWA. Aaron Jones piled up 94 rush yards, a TD, and 2 receptions for a nice 18-point effort for Lion Rip. So while Jones was making the Giants' defense look silly, the Vikings' defense was making the Giants' offense even worse. They sacked Daniel Jones 5 times and even scored a touchdown for a total of 22 points. Lamar Jackson raced out of the gates for the NWA in the first game of the new season, scoring 53. While Tyreek Hill did his normal thing in cuffs or without cuffs, however you want to say it, tallying 19 points. The NWA had a chance to beat Lion Rip on Monday Night Football, but just like every other starting tight end on the weekend, he didn't do too much, and Aaron's squad goes up 1-0 on the season. Eaton W scored the second most points on the weekend, racking up 150 to upend the Belt Sanders, thanks to Joe Mixon, who went bananas against the Colts defense. And how about Mike Evans, who nabbed 2 touchdown catches? Kevin sent me a text, said, how about that second-round pick? Because we obviously had some words of Just staying against that early for Mike Evans, but he showed us otherwise. Allen squad.
Tell him, Kevin. I always believed.
Shut up. Allen squad got a nice 21 points from Ramondre Stevenson, who ran all over the Bungles defense for 120 yards and a rushing TD. And how about Xavier Worthy doing a little bit of everything, scoring via the pass, reception, and rushing touchdown as well, 18 points. Wasn't enough for the Belt Sanders, who fall to 0-1. And our final matchup comes from our defending champ, who scored 150 points to improve to 1-0 on the season, defeating Kilgore Trout. As Todd said, kickers are people too, as Jake Moody connected on 5 field goals for a massive 26 points. The Butterfingers also got 2 touchdowns from their defense as Chicago pummeled that garbage of a quarterback in Will Levis to the tune of 29 points. And how about Alvin Kamara? Another place where I was wrong, the one we scoffed at, scored 20 points. Joe's team had some good performances from Tony Pollard, who scored 17 points. He had 26 big points from Cooper Kupp, who benefited from the Puka injury. And how about 22 from the Dallas defense? But Kilgore Trout falls to 0-1, while the Butterfingers improved to 1-0. Todd, I'll let you talk about your team really quick. What did you like, and how do you mean 150 points? That's got to be a pretty good feeling to get right out of the gate.
MVP.
That's right. Say it. Yeah, that's right, Mikey. MVP.
Champ is here.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, it's a good week or good first week when your kicker and your defense gets points in the 20s. That's pretty good. That's pretty good because obviously you're just like, okay, just a good maybe 13, 14 points from your defense and kicker maybe same thing around there. But when your kicker gets 26 points. You're probably going to win. But let's just talk about my Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins. I think we talked about how he was the number one option. He had the better rapport with CJ Stroud. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 1. That's all I gotta say. I told y'all. They went out. They went out to get Stephon Diggs to get a number 1 wide receiver, and they did. And feels good. Feels good. It feels good. Just feels good. I'm right. Feels good. I'm right. And yeah. And again, and the whole and then with Ayuk, Brandon Ayuk, obviously he didn't. He was a holdout, and obviously didn't practice. He didn't practice during training camp, so. I knew he was going to be a little rusty, so I'm okay with that. But other than that, my team performed really well, and I'm very happy, very happy, very happy that I was right. And I may have a lottery ticket on my bench in Jordan Mason.
Yeah, he had a pretty good performance in place of CMC. What did he have? 20-some points?
21
points. So there you have it. Todd is a genius, ladies and gentlemen, going for back-to-back championships. Mikey, you want to talk about your performance?
I just want to say I'm so proud of Todd. He's the champ. He's doing a fantastic job. We can all learn from him.
Oh, well, thank you, Mikey. I mean, a little teary eye on that one. Thank you.
You're welcome, Todd. You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, let's talk about my team. I think that last week when we were talking about the post-draft show, I mean, I don't want to gloat too much. That's not me. I'm more of the humble type, as you all know. But when I made that first-round pick of Saquon Barkley, there was maybe a little bit of eye rolling. I think people viewed him as a first-rounder, but maybe not at the 7th spot. And yeah, I just went with my gut instinct, running behind a really good offensive line, and as you said, probably put up one of the best games of his career. So it just my heart fluttered a little bit when I saw him, put up the game that he had. I mean, very proud of that. Wide receiver was a concern for me, but Jaden Reed came out of the gate really strong. I'm definitely worried about this Malik Willis thing. We'll see what happens. And yeah, the rest of the team contributed nicely. I was happy to get no surprise to you guys. I know I said I was going to be humble, but the one thing I have on my record is in the regular season, I'm always the highest scoring team in the league. And here we go again. I beat Todd by like a point and a half, but I'm right in that number one spot right now.
Well, and that'll lead us on over to our studs of the weekend.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Todd, give me someone that was a star of the weekend.
Well, I'll just go with the one Mikey just talked about, but Saquon Barkley. I mean, who'd have thunk it? Going from, New York City to Philadelphia, and he balled out. I mean, he's, again, I'll say it again. I say it before. I say it all the time, but got that chip on his shoulder. He's got that chip on his shoulder, and he definitely he showed it. He showed it in that game on Friday night in Brazil. So good on Saquon Barkley.
All right, Mikey, what about you?
So I'm going to go to Kevin's team. Joe Mixon, somebody that when we did our running backs podcast, I was a little high on, and that at least in week one that proved true. He went to a team in Houston that's committed to running the football, and they fed him the rock. I mean, I think if I read right, he had like 30 carries, which is nuts. And so yeah, I mean, over 25 points for Mixon, that is an awesome start.
Yeah, I agree. Joe Mixon was one of the guys I had on my list. Quite the performance. You always worry about, is there going to be enough balls to go around? And I know he's the running back compared to the three wide receivers we constantly talk about. They found him ways, and that was pretty impressive. So I definitely agree with you on that. We could always go to those kickers in Aubrey and Moody. I mean, that's just 26 points, especially on a Monday night, is kind of bananas to be able to. I mean, considering, the Jets defense is without one of its better players, but and we knew San Francisco's a good offense, but they just had no answer. They could not. I mean, how many times did Aaron Rodgers throw the ball? He was never on the field because San Francisco was just constantly moving up and down the field, and it was pretty impressive to. I mean, the kickers in general, we saw some great performances. Defenses in general, we saw had great performances. So many bad performances, but then you just look at these kickers and defense, you're like, wow. So maybe there's something to, we talked about before the season even started, like, when do you draft him? Second to last round. Maybe there's something to drafting him earlier. Todd, anybody else you want to talk about as a star of the weekend?
I'm going to talk about Anthony Richardson. 39 points. I mean, obviously coming off a major injury. Some of the throws he had were just mind-boggling. So obviously I wasn't as high on Anthony Richardson, but he definitely balled out. I mean, obviously didn't get the victory, but that's a different story for a different day. But he balled out. So good on Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson. What about you, Miguel? Anybody else that stand out?
Yeah, I wanted to, mention Todd's boy, Aaron Jones, who came up big for Aaron. Aaron, there was a lot of talk about him drafting those 6 running backs in a row. And, Aaron Jones was huge for him, over 90 yards. He had a touchdown. And then, the other guys that he drafted that he didn't play, I mean, all of them played well. Zach Moss, Brian Robinson Jr., Jerome Ford, all in double digits. So, yeah, kudos to Aaron.
All right, let's go over to the duds on the weekend.
This is the worst. You are the worst. I hate looking at your face. I want to smash it.
We'll start with Mikey this time. Who stunk it up here in week one?
I mean, the most obvious answer to me would be Marvin Harrison Jr. Just given the hype, around him, and for him to only catch, one pass, not good at all. I mean, it makes me look bad. It makes Todd look bad. Just not a good start for the rookie phenom receiver.
Well, there's one possession. I mean, there's one possession where he was just wide open, and Murray didn't see him or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it was, that was pretty bad. I mean, obviously, how much I was hyping him up, thinking he the next greatest wide receiver of all time. But yeah, not good.
Now, I didn't get to see the game. Looked like the Buffalo game was a high-scoring affair. Murray had 21 completions, but just 162 pass yards. Was it something Murray was doing? Well, I mean, is he still? I mean, he's still learning to play with Marvin Harrison? I mean, is this something that needs to be a concern going forward?
I don't know. I think it was more just Murray. From what I mean, I didn't see the game either, but from what I was reading or what I saw from the highlights, I don't know. Murray, the Buffalo's defense was getting to him, but I don't know. They just maybe weren't on the same page. I don't know what it is, but you got to find ways. And they even said after the game, they have to get him the ball. They have to figure out ways to get Marvin Harris. Well, duh. That's kind of the
Well, and part of it too is like you don't, and I think this is a byproduct of these guys that are not playing in preseason either. I mean, he's a rookie. You got to get the dude some reps with his quarterback, like in a real game situation. I mean, I think I mentioned to you, Eric, like that it didn't make any sense that Carolina wasn't playing like Bryce Young and their starters in the preseason because they're terrible and they could use the reps. And you see how bad they came out of the gate too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Harrison only had 3 targets. They just, I think they'll continue to build that, relationship. But yeah, I think that's part of it.
All right, Mikey, who pooped in their big boy pants this weekend?
Oh, well, I had mentioned Harrison, so I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Todd, your turn.
All right, we're gonna go with Drake London for the Atlanta Falcons. So let me make sure I get this right. So Ridley's not his quarterback anymore. They went out and paid Kirk Cousins, right? Let me just make sure I got that correct. And everything. Well,
that is correct.
Okay, and London and people are like, oh, well, London's got a quarterback now. The good quarterback that you can get the ball to. That he can get the ball to, and yeah, and he had a whopping 2 points. 2 points. Not one, not two, 2.75, but still, that's not good. And where you bring Kirk Cousins in for a reason, and you only get 2 points. Eek, not good. Not good at all.
Now, is there a pass because they played Pittsburgh and they have one of the better defenses? Kirk Cousins is still learning the system. He's may not be 100% from his ACL tear. I mean, his stats look abysmal. 2 picks, just 16 completions, 155 yards. I don't see where it says how many times he got sacked, but if I just look number 1, 2, just sacked twice, but maybe all kinds of pressure. But I think Gonzo Cats have Drake London. Should he be concerned, Mikey?
I don't think so. I think that again, it'll be something that develops. Like, I give Kirk Cousins a little bit of a pass this week because if you're in your first game coming off such a major injury and you have TJ Watt chasing you around, it's understandable to be a little hesitant about your movement within the pocket and trying not to get your head taken off by one of the best players in the league. I think that'll get better as it goes.
One guy I'll throw out, of course, is it's hard not to pick guys for my team because of where they were drafted, but that is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Ended up with just 3 receptions all game. I know it wasn't it was a lower scoring game than I think we all thought. And Goff only completed 18 passes, but Jamison Williams looked pretty darn good. Of course, sitting on my bench, but to have, I doubt he had a bad game or anywhere near that game 1 season ago. Like the Rams, they weren't that great of a defense. So unless they were, and I didn't look at the game, whatever they call it, I don't know what they call it, the whatever the film is that coaches watch. I can't remember what it's called. You can watch
Coaches
it
film.
NFL. Well, there's some. It's like 52 or something. I can't.
Yeah, it's like I think it's all 22.
There you go, all 22. Thank you, Miguel. So I didn't watch that or anything, but so you wonder if they were just you're going to beat us with everyone else, and everyone else outside of maybe Sam Laporta really. Obviously, the run game was pretty good. They were getting passes to Williams, and they were also getting passes to Jahmyr Gibbs, but. Pretty much just ignored Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they still ended up winning the game. So they had a plan in place, and they went to it. Back to Mikey for another dud on the weekend.
All right, I got to go to Joe's team. And I'm not going to pick Chuba Hubbard because, I mean, that wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world if he finished with just over a point.
Is
So
there a
I'm going to
reason
go.
why? And I hate to interrupt you, but is there a reason why he played Chuba Hubbard?
Yeah, he was planning on playing T. Higgins, but he was a
Oh, okay.
late scratch. So I kind of understand it.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Joe Burrow, given the fact that he was my top quarterback, coming into the season. And yeah, he just put up a dud. I know the Patriots historically are, a pretty good defense, but this game was at home. A lot of the noise coming out of Cincinnati's not helping him. Higgins didn't play. Jamar Chase and his off and on sickness and his contract situation, I'm sure, is causing a lot of problems. But I mean, he's got to produce more than he did in week one. Under 30 points for a quarterback of, his talent's not going to cut it. Not what Joe was expecting, not what I was expecting. So he's on the dud list.
At home.
At
He
home.
lost to a coach brand new, at least his first head coaching duties, and only put up 10 points. I don't know what that is. I guess I'd be concerned. It's just week one. You don't want to overanalyze anything at this point, but that just seems odd. And I didn't get to see the game, but that doesn't look good. That's not a good way to start a NFL season for sure. Todd, back to you. Another stinker.
Well, we'll go with, and obviously we talked about how a lot of the tight ends, weren't, very good outside of Isaiah Likely, who probably none of us thought was going to do well. But Travis Kelce, only 4 points. I mean, obviously a lot of that was, Xavier Worthy and Rice and so forth, but only 4 points from your tight end. Obviously, your tight end you drafted in the second round, but after Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, obviously we talked about in the last or 2 podcasts ago, that, obviously Travis Kelce has lost a little bit of step, but still Travis Kelce still has Patrick Mahomes attached to him and only get 4 points. Not good. Not good. Because essentially Travis Kelce is your number one wide receiver. Because if you're drafting him that high, you're expecting him to be your number one target, number one wide receiver, even though he's a tight end. So
Yeah. I think he blocked pretty well. He did a lot of
Yeah.
blocking in that game. They showed a lot of highlights of him just not taking a lot of routes. So that's something to keep an eye on. How many routes is he running per game? Obviously, what we saw from Worthy and Rashid Rice and what they were able to do. Does that take away from Kelce? Because I think it's always just kind of been Kelce and then everyone else. And, we saw Juju drop a pass. They need to just drop him in general. What a piece of garbage he is at this point of his career. I don't know what he's got on people that he keeps getting jobs, but whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. Travis Kelce, not the best weekend for sure. We went through all the other ones I had. I could mention Mark Andrews. From what I saw and I got to watch that game. They were making sure Andrews wasn't going to beat them. And so likely just free to roam and do whatever he wants. But I'll just say Chris Olave, just because of the fact that New Orleans scored 47 points.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't do nothing.
Yeah.
How's that possible? How is that possible? Rashid Shaheed obviously did a lot of heavy lifting in that as well. But this is my Josh Jacobs 4th round pick happening all over again. Where he fell to me. I thought it was great. This is going to be a fantastic pick. And no, it's not. This is not working out for you. Just unreal. I don't know if New Orleans scores 47 again for the rest of the year. Well, I guess maybe they'll play Carolina one more time. So maybe it's a possibility. But that is just mind-boggling to me. And again, I didn't get to see every route and all the plays, but that's just wild. Anything else before? Well, I mean, let's talk about whatever you guys want. Is there something we haven't talked about? Something that you saw was interesting? I mean, it was the first week of the NFL season. What do you guys want to talk about? Mikey, anything that stand out to you that you want to mention?
Just in general, how quarterback scoring wasn't high, at all. like a lot of pretty subpar performances. Like we're used to most quarterbacks scoring like getting into the 40s at least, sometimes in the 50s. And if you look around, for the most part in our league, like they were in the 30s, which is, that's why a lot of these, scores, I think that'll start picking up and the league will start having higher scores as these quarterbacks get going. But yeah, a lot of them struggled in week one.
Yeah, I saw something from Warren Sharp, and maybe you saw this, Miguel. But in 2021, there were 61 passing touchdowns in week one. And then in 2022 there was 51, in 2023 there was 37, and then now 35 total touchdown passes in week one. So almost less than half from where we were just a few years ago. And going by the preseason ranking here, I mean, Josh Allen did well with his 53 points, Jalen Hurts 40, Mahomes 37, Lamar Jackson 53, Anthony Richardson 39, Murray 37, CJ Stroud was solid with 46, Jordan Love 37 was solid, Dak Prescott 32. And I'm not going to put anything on him because they just beat the hell out of their opponent. He didn't have to throw in the second half. Joe Burrow was bad, as Mikey mentioned. Brock Purdy 29, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence was bad once again. Kirk Cousins bad. Jared Goff bad. Aaron Rodgers bad. Geno Smith was okay at 37. You're right. The passing was down, and that's just going to hurt wide receivers all around. So it benefited you if you had a good kicker defense this week, because there just wasn't a lot of stupendous performances from the wide receiver.
Well,
of course, outside the guy I played in Jaden Reed.
Yeah, well, even Lamar, I was just going to add to that, Lamar and Josh Allen were like the two top ones, but a lot of their stats are from rushing and not even passing.
Yeah, Pat, that's right. Did you mention Daniels?
Jaden Daniels?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was solid with 45. Again, he had 2 rushing touchdowns, but just no passing touchdowns, 17 completions, 184 yards. But his touchdown saved his day, and 88 yards rushing, that saved his day.
Yeah, he might have a good game next week because they play the Giants.
So is this a preview of what you're saying between Daniel and Purdy?
I'm definitely thinking about it. I'll say that, because I mean, the matchup just, I don't know. The matchup just seems too good to pass up. I mean, no, he's a rookie, but the Giants were just horrible, just god awful. So he might run wild on them, and and throw a couple touchdown passes. But we'll see. I mean, I'm debating whether or not if I want to maybe roll the dice here in week 2 and play Daniels over Purdy. But
well, I guess while we're in the middle of it, next week's schedule, Todd, speaking of what he's going to do next week, he'll face off against Lion Rip. Of course, that's a rivalry in its own little way. Eaton W's taking on Gonzo Cats, Cooper's Cousins, toe-to-toe with the NWA, Hot Tamales, Chad Powers Fan Club. I'll take on Lemonheads. Will take on Notorious CUP, and Kilgore Trout up against the Belt Sanders. Anything else you guys want to talk about from this week, Mikey? Any other moves you're considering to change for next week?
I mean, not a lot. I'll think about my 2 Green Bay players given their change at quarterback and what that means to, this week. But I haven't determined that just yet.
Okay. What else? I guess we're coming up to the end of the show a little bit. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about,
well, we'll do but we'll talk Broncos talk after.
Talk about Broncos talk after the podcast. All right. Well, if we're all good to go, then that'll do it for the week 1 recap. So as we go into next week, remember to make sure that if you have those opportunities to move those guys into the flex position for those late games on Sunday night or Monday, make sure you have that option, because obviously it can be a big deal in case someone gets injured. We saw T. Higgins. He was kind of a late scratch. And then Christian McCaffrey. So there you have it. Week 1 in the books. Ready for week 2. For Mikey Renault, Todd Diamond, I'm Eric Lansing. We'll see you next time.